The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, Kilda, power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi and welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a weekly show about the Port Adelaide Footy Club. I'm your host, Macca 19, and joining me, as always, we've got co-host Fishing Rick. How are you, buddy?
Wingod! What a mark, Macca.
Absolute champion.
Oh, what a rip snorter. I am very, very happy sitting on the side of the road at Ardrossan once again. My car, with the car light on, looking at the Sunday Mail, at statistics. What better way to spend a Sunday night but talking about Port Adelaide's win over St Kilda.
What a way to spend a long weekend, mate.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Now we are without a guest this evening, so it's just us two.
I should have brought some candles.
You should.
It could have been romantic.
You could
It
have.
could have been a romantic candlelight conversation of Port Adelaide.
I'm lathering myself up in some scented massage oil as we speak.
It sounds exciting.
It's very erotic. It's fantastic.
A bit scary, actually.
Well, look, let's get straight into it, mate. What was your love and hate this week?
My love was us calling for Hamish Hartlett to come back and be a leader and stand up, and there was no better way than him doing that. And obviously, he must listen to our show and our calls. And I thought he was fantastic and delivered exactly what we were looking for. And my hate's not necessarily Port related, but I guess it does flow into our games as well. And watching that Carlton Geelong game where Menzel got that high contact right at the end, it didn't really overjoy me that people are calling for that being a free kick. I think we're finding in the game too many people are now sort of initiating high contact either by intent or by accident. But if they're creating it, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a free kick. And he was falling to ground, so I don't see what else the Geelong player could do. And I guess the overall umpiring as a whole is starting to sort of become really difficult and inconsistent. And that's my hate for the week, mate.
I thought it was the correct call as well. I mean, they brought in that rule or non-rule, I guess it is, where if you lead with your head, you're not going to get a free kick. So I reckon it was spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it was a good call. I mean, if he was upright and that contact occurred, well, yeah, obviously every day it's a free kick. But, I mean, he was falling to ground and falling towards that Geelong player. I mean, what's that Geelong player supposed to do?
Yeah, that's right.
He's got no choice. And, no. Otherwise, the only good thing would have been if he got the free kick, Geelong would have lost, which would have been great. But anyway.
Yeah. Spot on, mate. Spot on. You are going to love my love this week, mate.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
It's Jasper Pittard.
Oh, Jasper.
Jasper. Oh, I'm coming around. It was a wonderful game by Jasper. It was pretty much his best game ever that I've seen. It was instinctive. It was dominant. It was confident. But he marked everything in sight. He ran off with conviction, ran off at the right times, used the ball well. It was the perfect game for Jasper Pittard. That's what I want to see every week.
I was in tears, mate. I was just crying with my wild turkey and coke last night. It was just beautiful watching that play. I thought he was magnificent as well. I mean, it was just a great game. And, if you're going to knock him after that game, I mean, you're never going to come round as a Jasper fan, I guess.
No, that's right.
But you're spot on. And, I mean, he's still a work in progress. But, it's 2 games in a row now, Macca, that he's strung together with some good consistency. So hopefully it continues.
Absolutely. And my hate is being at home, not being at the game, and therefore missing the Wingard mark live. Would have loved to have been there, but decided to do the dad thing and stay home with my 2 young boys and watch it at home. But I got to miss the mark, unfortunately.
Yeah. And what a mark it was, though.
What a mark it was. Now, here's the question. Which one was better, the Freo mark or the St Kilda mark?
Well, if we go into diving parlance, I reckon the first one was better. I thought, just from a degree of technicality or, technical degree, but I guess the second mark is a lot more spectacular, and that seems to be the mark that always sort of polls the most votes. But for me, I like the first one. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think the first one was better as well. I mean, it had that half pike and a twist. And this one was a bit more of your classic ride. It was probably a little bit more spectacular. You probably got a little bit more airtime this time. But
Yeah.
I thought the Freo one was slightly better.
Yeah.
I reckon just give him 2 cars. He deserves it. Well, Port Adelaide played St Kilda at Adelaide Oval on Saturday twilight in front of around about 42,000 people, which is a pretty good crowd, I thought, for a long weekend. There was a little hiccup in that second quarter, but in the end it was a pretty easy 70-point win, 19 goals 15 to 9 goals 5. Robbie Gray continued his outstanding form with 4 goals, and Chad Wingard and Jay Schultz kicked 3 each.
Yeah, and I mean, I was thinking about, how I've been criticising Jay Schultz for the last couple of weeks with the bomb it long criticism, but I thought the delivery to Jay was a lot better this week too. The midfielders really made him run to the ball instead of dropping it on his head, so sort of forced him to lead a little bit too. But it was a great performance. But yeah, I think we need to go into that second quarter a little bit because it really mystified me. We had that great start in the first, and then St Kilda was a bit lucky, I guess, with a couple of goals. But you're going to get that in a game of footy. But
yep.
I think we went into showboat overdrive in that second quarter, and I don't know. I feel sorry for us Port fans because I thought that was probably the worst quarter of football I've seen of any game this year. I thought it was absolutely abysmal.
Yeah. It wasn't great. I mean, we kicked the first 4 goals. It was very, very similar to the Melbourne game in where we got off to an absolute flyer, and then we just took the foot off the pedal. I don't know if it was a little bit of complacency or we thought, we'd just be able to get the job done, but you could visibly see us take the foot off the pedal, just relax a little bit, and it didn't really give St Kilda a sniff as such. It just turned the game into an absolute farce for about 30 minutes there.
Oh, it was like I felt like I was watching a very poor game of soccer. We were just trying to play this uncontested, chip it around game style. And I mean, the noticeable thing for me when we've been trying to switch the play this year is our switches have been aggressive switches. So we've always been switching, but in a forward direction. Whereas in that second quarter, we were just going backwards and taking the long way to try and go around. And it was just too slow. And it was almost like St Kilda was lacking intensity in the game, and it brought our boys down in intensity. And instead of lifting another gear, they just really were complacent, which was another one of our calls, I guess, in the preview show about the complacency. And they just got sucked in, and I reckon they would have had strips torn off them in the halftime break.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could tell we always started playing arrogant football. I mean, I've never seen so many look away handballs and handballs over your head, and trying to play this sort of showtime, footy, and it just didn't come off at all. And we ended up looking pretty stupid there for about 25 minutes. But you could tell just nearing the end of the second quarter, I reckon the players sort of thought, well, we've got to really knuckle down and do something before the halftime break. Otherwise, we're going to get absolutely spanked by Kenny at halftime.
Well, what was with Aaron Young's handball? That was in the second quarter.
He was. I don't reckon that was his fault, to be honest. I mean, it's probably a bit of a talking point because obviously there was the Geelong game where he didn't handball to Wingard. He chose to have a shot running into goal and hit the post. He got absolutely shit-canned for it by everyone, just about all the supporters. Kenny Hinkley as well said, he definitely should have given the handball. And ever since then, he's been a little bit reluctant to sort of go back and have his shots in front of goal, I've thought.
On the footage in the first quarter, there seemed to be a bit of a disagreement between Robbie Gray and Kane Corns. I couldn't see any reason for the disagreement, but that was a bit of interesting dynamics there, I thought. Yeah,
it looked like Kane thought he had a pretty good lead and Robbie chose not to give him the ball and he went to someone else instead, and Kane had a bit of a go at him for it.
Is that something that should be happening on the ground, or is that something that should just be happening behind closed doors after the game?
Oh, look, I think it happens every week with every forward line play. I mean, players lead all the time and get pretty cranky when they're not honoured. I guess it's just not shown on TV as clearly as that was, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I guess it's something that I'd rather see players just bring up after the game behind closed doors. I guess, I mean, because it could influence, especially the younger players, on the game. And, but I guess, I mean, it's not the end of the world sort of thing. But, and you're right. I mean, there's plenty of players that get missed out of an opportunity every game. But, so, I mean, for me, the first half was, we were lucky we kicked those 3 goals at the end and sort of gave us a bit of forward momentum coming into the second half, really, didn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
But, I mean, I thought Hamish Hartlett's first quarter, I mean, overall, his whole game was great, but his first quarter, he just stood up. I really had a close look at him, and he's pretty massive now, isn't he? He's really added body shape. I haven't noticed it before this year.
Well, the past sort of 18 months, I guess, since the start of last year, you could really tell he's had quite a big change in his body shape, and he is that real brute midfielder now, which is fantastic. It's what he's needed to be. I'm loving his size and his strength, and he can absolutely, sort of break free of those tackles. He's got a great little sidestep on him. He's turning into a fantastic midfielder, and I thought that was probably his best game of footy at AFL level.
Yeah, you'd probably be close there. I think the other one would have been I reckon it might have been against Carlton that Eddie had last year. Was that with Carlton when he kicked those 3 goals from outside 50?
That was That was in 2012 at Footy Park.
Was it?
Yep.
Oh, I am getting old. I mean, that's the other one I'm thinking of. But yeah, he was fantastic, and in that first half he stood up. And I thought the other, if we're just focusing on the first half, I thought the other one to stand up in the first half was Jarman Impey again. Yeah, I mean, his whole game was great, but in that first half he was just fantastic. And I can't believe for a first year player, I would have thought he might have been starting to tire out about now, but he's actually stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, he's definitely just going from strength to strength. You can't seem to fault him at the moment. He's getting more and more confidence. He's playing more and more attacking. He's done some really good defensive jobs all year, but he's now finding that sort of confidence to have a bit of a run with the ball. Push forward, break the lines a bit more, and you can really see what the club was interested in at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, we made reference to it last week, and with the comment of everyone saying, "Oh, where did this Impey guy come from?" In the draft, but you can see the scouts obviously did their work because he's a fantastic player.
He is, absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see where he evolves his career. I don't think he'll be a back pocket his whole career, that's for sure.
No, I wouldn't think so. I think a midfield spot beckons in the future, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time. It's you don't really want to make comparisons, but he does remind me so much of a young Andrew McLeod. Just the way he moves, the smoothness across the turf, his kicking ability, his sidestep, his closing ability, the fact that he can do a great job in defence. You can just tell in the future he's got a midfield spot for him as well.
Yeah, you're spot on, and I made reference to that to my neighbour, who's a supporter up over here as well. Today when we were having a chat about the footy, and his movement, he runs so similar to Andrew McLeod, and
he does.
If he has half the career of what Andrew did, he'll be a fantastic player. But at the moment, what I'm really impressed with is his judgment of the ball and his reading of the play. And I can't remember. Forgive me, whoever made the comment on the review, your review thread today. But they made a perfect highlighting example of how Jarman knows how to zone off at the right time and get to the play. And I thought that was a very astute observation because he's, for a first-year player, he does it fantastically well and probably a little bit better than what your mate Homps is doing at the moment, which I noticed you pointed out he needs to probably work on his coming off and zoning off a little bit better.
Indeed. I mean, Impey's only 18 still. He hasn't turned 19 yet. It's bloody scary. But you are spot on. You are spot on about Homps. I thought he played not too bad. I don't know, I really struggled to rate his game because on one hand I thought, well, defensively he wasn't too bad, and then at other times I thought, well, what are you doing here, son? I mean, you're just zoning off at the complete wrong times, and especially the mark that Rewalt took early in the game, sort of directly in front of goal. You thought, well, that was the only spot that the ball was ever going to go. You should have been right on his hammer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought last week he was a little bit down as well.
Yeah.
And this week. But, sometimes it's hard, I guess. If you get caught out on transition as well, it's going to throw your structure out a little bit also, from a defensive mindset. But I'm with you. I think it was probably, I mean, we're being really judgmental here, but his performance against him was a little bit off what he sort of set as a benchmark for this year. But, I mean, that's a good problem to have for him. I mean, we still won by 70 points. And there's room for improvement. And I thought Tom Jonas in that defensive unit really slotted in like he hasn't been missing. And tell you what, he's a bloody big boy too now, isn't he, Jonas?
He is an absolute beast of a human being, that guy. He's just an absolute tank.
So what was the change for you from the first half to the second half? We came out firing in that third quarter.
Yeah, I think the change happened maybe with about 3 or 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. It just seemed like we went back to basics. That's what I had noted down about 3 times. We just went back to basics. We stopped the showboating football. We stopped being conceited and just went back to doing what we need to do to win a game of footy, and that's, win the contested ball, win the ruck, get it forward quickly, muck well, kick well. Simple as that.
Yeah, well, definitely a lot more direct with our gameplay, weren't we? And we just ran the lines, went back to running the lines instead of trying to play this uncontested possession-based Richmond game plan. And, and the direct route was the way to go. And it really opened up St Kilda. And it was very similar to St Kilda's performance last week against Collingwood as well. And I just wondered maybe if it's our young side starting to absorb some of the hype that is getting thrown at us, and so they're maybe struggling for a little bit of motivation against the lesser teams at the moment, so to speak, and just sort of have one eye maybe on the more glamour games, which we've got a big one coming up this week, and so the boys are taking that little bit of showboating mentality, which I'm sure Ken wouldn't be a big fan of at this point in time.
No, I don't think so. I thought it was really good to go back to basics and do the normal things well, get the bread and butter right. And I thought we did that well. I thought our forward structures were much better, as you touched on a bit earlier. It was great to see Schultze leading towards the ball again, and the midfielders honouring his leads. Wingod was always a threat up there, as was Robbie Gray. The midfielders just did a fantastic job. I mean, Hartlett was best on ground. Ollie Wines, again, for a second-year player, just his ability to win the hard ball and dish off just the most ridiculous handballs that always hit the target is phenomenal for someone of his age. And I thought also Kane Corns did a fantastic job in stopping Lee Montagna as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Ollie Wines is just a beast of a player, and I think they were joking around on the broadcast, be the first 100-kilo midfielder, but he's a tank. And I mean, he racked up 26 disposals, and it was just an Ollie Wines game. I mean, we should really be saying how good is this guy for just a second-year player, and how he's really dominating. I mean, he's going to be scary good in a couple more years' time.
Absolutely.
There, and it's great to see, and it's also great. Thanks, Melbourne, once again for passing on him. But
Sorry, I was just going to say he does sort of fly under the radar a bit. I don't think he gets anywhere near the press that he deserves, but I think that's probably a good thing as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a bit hard. It's all about the Chad, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is it with the name Chad?
I don't know. It's a good name for the Port Adelaide Footy Club.
Absolutely. But I mean, if you're talking about the forward structure, what about you weren't overly convinced with Trengove up forward?
Yes and no. I thought he started well in the first 15 minutes of the first quarter, but then he just completely went out of the game and didn't really do much. And I thought he looked a lot better when he went back in defence.
Yeah, he's definitely a lot more solid as a defensive player, but I still think I've been banging on for weeks now about us needing that third tall, and I think our forward structure seems to benefit from that third tall. And I mean, even under Primus, we seem to be reluctant to carry that extra tall player in the side, and that still seems to carry through with Ken, who definitely wants a running machine, and therefore we seem to still go one tall short, and it doesn't overly hurt us. And I thought our other call that we spoke about in the preview was Lobe bashing up Longer, and he definitely did that, didn't he?
He did that in style, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably his best game, to be honest. Matty Lobe, I thought he had an absolutely fantastic game. Where did he have like 45 hitouts or something, and just went into beast mode against Billy Longer, who's a former first round draft pick. He's leading the ruckus in Kilda at the moment. It's probably a year or two too early for him to do that. But the thing that I really liked most about Lobe's game wasn't the quantity of the hitouts he was getting, but it was absolutely the quality of the hitouts that he was giving to his midfielders.
30% to advantage.
Yeah, it's a good figure.
Yeah, 16 pressure acts, 8 tackles, 5 marks.
He had a great game. Yeah, I thought that was his best game. That was his best game at AFL level. His around the groundwork was excellent, and once again he kicked a fantastic goal as well.
Absolutely, I can't argue with that. I was happy, and that's what we wanted. He's a mature man now, and he was coming up against a more immature opponent, and this is sort of the performance that he needs to be delivering, and it's good to see that he's stepping up to the plate. So should we talk about the Chad in isolation for a couple of minutes? I mean, 23 possessions. His possession numbers were up this week compared to the bulk of the season. 10 marks, 9 contested possessions. How many goals? 3 goals.
Yep.
Yeah, it was obvious that he played a little bit higher up the ground this week without Matty White and Travis Boak there. And I must admit, I do like seeing Chad run up the ground a little bit more. He's just got such creativity.
He's very good. He's very good as a midfielder. He is a very good midfielder, but he's also probably too good to miss up forward as well. But I thought his move into the midfield, because we threw him into the midfield with a couple of minutes left in the second quarter, and that really got us going. And he spent probably half the third quarter up there as well, up the ground a little bit, and it was just fantastic. That was his best game for the year, I thought. And when he goes into God mode like that, he's just about unstoppable.
Yeah, apparently they were joking around on the radio that they were trying to double team him and it still wasn't working. His overhead marking and his reading of the play is second to none, and and he's the talk of the media town on the today and last night, and we're lucky to have Chad as a player, and he seems to be very well grounded. And I mean, I guess we're talking about all his parts or statistics in the game, but I guess one thing sometimes we can forget, he had 18 pressure acts.
Yeah.
It was the equal third most pressure acts of the team. So he's willing to do the hard stuff as well as the glamorous stuff. And that's what's going to make him the complete footballer. If he keeps putting up those sort of numbers and performance in his defensive aspects of his game plus the offensive, he's going to be a superstar.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. It was a great response from Chad, and it was a great response from all our leaders, really, after, we all sort of criticised them last week. But, we've spoken about Lobe, we've spoken about Wingard, Hartlett was fantastic, we've touched a little bit on Corns as well, but Polek was excellent, even though he sort of rolled his ankle or twisted an ankle or something. He was very, very good. Bobby Carlisle was back to his best. He killed Tom Lee. Brad Ebert was back to his hard-running best as well.
Absolutely. Nothing actually came out in the media about Brad with his performance last week, but he must have been injured or unwell or something. And I guess the other one, I probably a harsh marker on Kane Mitchell. And I thought he was probably a little bit down, but when I went through the paper this morning and had a look at his stats, he still racked up reasonable numbers with the ball. And again, if we go to the pressure acts, the defensive side of his game, he was second highest with 20 for the team. So defensively, he's really putting that pressure on. I guess similar criticism to what people have with Pittard. Sometimes his disposal is a little bit questionable, but he's a tough one. I think I judge him a little bit harshly at times, Kane, and he probably did his job amicably well on the weekend.
I think we all probably criticise him a bit because for half the game he doesn't really do much, sort of thing. He really struggles to get going. It takes him a long time to get going. And when the heat's out of the game, that's when Kane Mitchell sort of starts to shine because of his superior fitness base. So he had, once again, I think 5 touches to half time and then had 13 touches in the second half. And I think they're pretty similar numbers to what he normally gets in sort of like a first half, second half differential there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's the same sort of aspect of what I was talking about with Aaron Young last week. I don't want them out of the side. I just want them to show us supporters they want to be kept in the side,
yep.
and and just really step up to the plate and earn it. Where they're keeping their spot, but they're not really commanding their spot, and that's the next evolution. I thought Ben Newton came on, in that third quarter and played very well.
Yeah,
I thought he had good influence, and he was an interesting choice as sub. To be honest, I didn't think he was probably a sub player, with his skill set and everything. And I would have loved to have seen him play a whole game. But I thought he did well as a sub, and hopefully he gets to hold his spot this week and maybe gets to play a whole game.
Yeah, had a good last quarter. Ended up with 12 touches, which is pretty good for I think he had 24% time on ground, so just about a quarter of footy. And 12 touches, that was good. He really should have nailed that goal, though. That was a bit of a clanger, but I really enjoyed his contested work and his ability to put his head over the ball and get it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So was there anyone you were disappointed with, or was it too hard to be disappointed with anybody?
Probably Youngie, I thought was a little bit disappointing. Even though he copped a really bad knock to his shoulder, I just thought his instinctiveness wasn't there this week. And normally I like that part of his game. I just thought he made quite a few errors, even pushing away that silly handball aside. I thought he made probably 3 or 4 other errors, which weren't great and might cost him his spot in the side this week. Because with Boak and White and probably Monfries coming back, we're going to need to find 3 players to go out, and I think he's going to be in the gun this week.
Well, how did you find Sam Gray's performance coming back into the side?
It was all right. I think I have the same sort of opinion of him as what I do with Kane Mitchell, where I think if you're at the ground, you sort of think, well, he hasn't really done much, but when you watch the replay, you sort of notice all these other little things that he does. Like, I really like how he finds the space in front of his opponent, especially on the lead, coming up across those flanks and across half forward there. He always seems to find that sort of 2 or 3 metre gap on his opponent so he can win the ball. The problem that I found with his game yesterday was that he often fumbled that first touch, and that sort of made void that sort of gap that he was able to get on his opponent. But other than that, I thought he wasn't too bad. I think, again, he's probably going to be in the same boat as Young, where he's just going to be out of the side because we've got other better players coming back in. But I'd love to see a bit more of him at AFL level.
Yeah, he to me, he just seems to lack a little bit of top end speed. But other than that, no. And I think for to be in the AFL side with that sort of size and stature, you sort of need to be a bit of a jet, don't you, to be a permanent sort of player.
Yep.
That's probably going to be his biggest knock against him, I would imagine. But I mean, if you look at our key stats, the marks inside 50, we had 18 to their 5.
Yep.
I mean, that's just ridiculously good. And again, we're still tracking around that 60 inside 50s and held St Kilda to 34. So our inside 50 differential for and against, is just sublime, as it has been all season. So
definitely,
it shows we're just dominating.
So who was your top 5?
I had Hamish Hartlett as top. I thought he was fantastic. Robbie Gray, again, another fantastic performance, and it's a shame Gary Ablett plays the game because he'd almost be right up there to win the Brownlow, but you never know. Footy's a funny game, so if he keeps putting up numbers like that, he's going to be pushing really hard. Chad Wingard had him 3rd. Matt Lobe 4th, and there's so many. I mean, you could throw a blanket over a lot of them, and I'll put my J-Dog in there as 5th best for his backing up from the previous week.
Good stuff. Love it. Yeah, I had Hamish as best on ground. 36 touches, 8 marks, and a goal. It was, in my opinion, his best game at AFL level. And we called it in the preview. We wanted a big one, and he delivered. I thought it was his best four-quarter game since the showdown. Matty Lobe I had as second best against a young ruck, but that was his best game at AFL level as well. The quality of hitouts was higher than we normally get from him, and I thought his around the ground work was very, very good as well. Robbie Gray, I mean, I've just run out of things to say about this guy. He's just too good at the moment. He's unstoppable. You just can't stop him, whether he's marking on the lead, whether he's winning the hard ball in the midfield or up forward. 4 goals and 3 goal assists. I mean, that's just fantastic. Jasper Pittard, the J-Dog, 25 touches, 13 marks. His best game at AFL level by a mile. He dominated that half-back line, ran with conviction and used the ball well. That's the standard that I think Jasper needs to aspire to every week, not just once, every 5 or 6 weeks now. And Big Jarman Impey, I mean, he just continues to improve with every showing. We've said it before, but it's beyond our wildest expectations, I think. And that one-handed pick up and goal from 50, I mean, that was just lightning.
Oh,
absolutely
amazing.
Lightning.
Absolutely.
And I've got to say, honourable mention to Kane Corns, who kept Lee Montagna to his second lowest disposal count in the last 3 seasons.
Cheer, cheer the black and the white, honour the magpies day and by night.
What happened with the SANFL, Macca?
It was a pretty interesting game. Port ran out maybe lucky winners in the end by 13 points. It was 14 goals 7 to 12 goals 6. Nathan Cracker, Jakey Need, Mitch Harvey and Robbie Young all kicked 2 goals for the winners. It was a pretty interesting game. I mean, we led at quarter time 7 goals 1 to 1 goal. We kicked something like 4 or 5 goals in the last 6 or 7 minutes of the first quarter, as we have done numerous times this year. And then the sort of heat went out of the game a little bit. Centrals did a really good job of containing us for the middle 2 quarters, and then they kicked 4 goals to start the last quarter. Got back to within 6 points, and they had a shot on goal with around about the 20-minute mark, which would have levelled the scores, but they kicked it out on the full, and we ended up running it down the other end, and kept it down that end of the ground for a few minutes, and ended up kicking the sealer with Benny Harron kicking a goal at the 24-minute mark, which sealed the game. So it was a pretty lucky win in the end.
Yeah, but I guess we had a fair few outs too, didn't we? So
yeah, we've got about 12 or 13 players out of that side at the moment, I think. So to have that amount of talent out of the side, I thought we did a fantastic job to still get over the line.
Absolutely. I was half expecting us maybe to drop this game this week just with all the good players that are out of the team. So but for those players to come in and the existing players to stand up is a great effort. Yep. I noticed Jay Butch didn't top the goal scorers list.
No, Jay Butch wasn't very good. A lot of people have been pretty critical of his game. He had 10 touches, 6 marks and a goal. He kicked 1 goal, 3. I think he missed 2 goals from the goal square from about 10 metres out. And then got thrown down back for a bit of time in the last quarter as well.
Right. I don't know. It's starting to get a bit of a worry now, isn't it?
It's sort of, he just needs to string some good games together in a row. He seems to be kicking 5 goals one week and then can't get a kick the next. So he just needs to find that bit of consistency in his game.
Well, I don't know. For me, it's not even about the consistency in the game. It sounds like there's minimal improvement in his actual goal kicking itself. And as a key forward or a forward target, even Treadray was a little bit shaky early on, but he kept working on it, but he still had the fundamentals there. Whereas, John seems to be a real worry, and I want him to make it, and I want him to make it as a Port player. But to be in this is his 5th year in the AFL system now.
Yep.
And I just don't. I must admit, I don't see a lot of it, but from what I hear and from other people's opinions, there just seems to be a lot of lack of improvement in that goal kicking, which is for me. Just don't know how, after 5 years in an AFL system, there can't be any improvement at all. Especially when you got Jay Schultz, that should be a fantastic mentor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you'd think it would have improved. And look, he does have pretty good goal kicking accuracy this year, just on a pure on paper point of view. But he does have a lot of sort of out on the fulls and not scored from shots at all and all that sort of stuff. So probably looks better than what it actually is.
Yeah. So what about our player sponsor, Brennan Archie? Did he have a noticeable game?
Statistically, he wasn't bad. He had 17 touches and 6 marks, but I don't think he did a hell of a lot with the ball. I think quite a few people have said he was quite a bit disappointing and just should have been able to do a little bit more with it than what he ended up doing.
So who were the better players for the Maggies then this week?
Oh, look, Stevie Summerton just keeps on keeping on. He had 27 touches again. Tommy Logan was great across half-back and pushing through the midfield. He had 31 touches and 9 marks. Daniel Flynn was absolute lightning. He had 23 touches, 6 marks and 5 rebound 50s. And you know, the crowd is starting to get that real sort of excitement to them. Every time he goes near it, you know, there's that whole sort of Flinny, all that sort of stuff. And you know, he's going to be an absolute cult hero for this footy club for a long time, I think. Nathan Cracker was very good. He kicked a couple of goals and played a very similar game to what Jasper Pittard did down back. And Darcy Byrne-Jones just keeps on improving. He was fantastic with 24 touches as well.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually quite excited about Flinny. Hopefully I can find some time to try and get out and see a game with him live this season because I just want to see him in action and just see what he can show because there's something about his physique and the style of play that he presents that just sort of screams that he'll be a fantastic AFL player, and it'll be good just to see him in the formation of his career and what he does and how he evolves from there.
Yeah, I mean, getting the amount of the ball that he does now and with the accuracy with how he delivers it, I mean, he's not too far off. It's just...
Yeah.
He's only sort of 5 to 10% off getting a game at AFL level, and it's really just a matter of him continuing to develop, keeping his confidence levels high, his teammates getting around him, and you never know, maybe next year he might get some games.
Well, it's amazing to think, you know, as an international rookie, you know, the last few weeks he's been getting over 20 possessions, and I guess we were all just wondering about his ability to read the gameplay. And he's able to do it fantastically well. You can't get 20-odd possessions and not be able to read the game. So
that's right.
Yeah, and he's just got those AFL attributes, doesn't he, with his size, speed, you know, blend of endurance.
Yep. I mean, we speak about the size of Tommy Jonas and how much of a beast he is, but I mean, Daniel Flynn looks very, very similar, and he's probably 3 times as quick. I mean, he's just such an explosive player, and we've spoken about him a lot on this podcast, and I think it's pretty clear that we're very, very eager to see what he can do in his career.
Absolutely. Well, I guess where is it for him? How long can he be a rookie on the list? A couple of years, can't he?
Well, he's not even part of the international rookie. I think he's got a 2-year contract on that. So he's definitely going to be here for another year. And you would think, I would think even at the end of this year we'd look at putting him on the main list. To be honest, I think
that's what I was just about to ask you. You know, is it, you know, if he keeps racking up this sort of numbers in a game and influence in a game, surely the club will just upgrade him.
Oh,
there and then.
So. Yeah, you would think so.
Why even bother playing these games of keeping as an international rookie? I mean, just get him on the list and let's get him in the side. I mean, have Jasper playing like Jasper is now and have Flynn playing down there would just be, I don't know,
excitement
scary.
Plus, mate. Excitement plus.
Oh, wouldn't it? I don't know what I'd do. More candles in the car while we're talking.
More locker room tickets.
More locker room tickets. Well, I gave some away this week again, and the recipients were very, very excited, and I had a couple of text messages enjoying the show. So I'm glad they liked it, and they had another good win, and I'm very excited about this weekend coming up. For looking forward to the chat on that on Thursday night, and I guess there was one other thing that we didn't bring up with the review. Was the comments on in the media about the grass potentially being too long at Adelaide Oval and a bit dewy and a bit slippery. What do you think about that?
I think it's a load of crap, to be honest.
Well, it doesn't look that long to me.
No, it looks in fantastic condition.
I thought the MCG grass seems to be longer than the Adelaide Oval grass, and
Yeah,
surely in this day and age, AFL players can get their boots right.
you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear a few comments on the forum after you put the podcast up of the people that were able to make the game if the dew did set in. I mean, we've been pretty lucky with the weather in Adelaide so far this year, and we haven't had much dew at the games that we played. So, yeah, it's a shame that we both missed it. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to hear if anyone's got any comments on whether it was dewy or not.
Yep. All right, well, I reckon we might leave it there for now.
Absolutely.
What a great weekend it was for Port Adelaide.
It is fantastic, and I might go and launch off my fireworks now. So,
Good stuff.
yeah, we let off a couple last night and got in trouble because we let off a test one and then no one saw it except for us, and I got in trouble with the missus. So I think everyone's we're going to launch the rocket tonight. So if I'm not on Thursday, something might have gone wrong with the rocket.
That's it. Good stuff.
Have a good one, Macca.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Go the power.
Go the power.
Go the Maggies.
Gray was brave, running hard, Moore getting forward. One last chance, Boat brilliant, Wines, Montfrey's centering ball, Cassisi, Wingod! You know who again?
It is his birthday.
Kid's a freak.